Instructions are same. If at all you have any doubts, please you raise your hand, let me call your name, and then you can unmute yourself and talk. You make sure you keep yourself muted. All right? Do not create any disturbance in the middle of the class, please. All right? Are we clear with the previous session? What all we have seen? We have seen the stress equilibrium equations. We have seen strain displacement equations and the relation between stress and strain. We have also seen special cases such as plane stress and plane strain cases also. Do we have any doubts in that part? If you have, please you can raise your hand so that I can call your name. If there is no doubts, we can go forward and solve a problem from the same topic. I see no hands raised, so I assume that everybody is clear with the topic. So I'll start sharing my screen now. You have a problem on the screen. You will have to solve that problem and do not tell the answer until I ask you. All right? Right. Are you able to see the question? Anyone can unmute yourself and yeah, right. So that's your question. In a plane strain problem, we have sigma z is equal to 30 into 10 to the power 3 megapascals. Sigma y minus 15 into 10 to the power 3 megapascals. The value of E and the value of Poisson's ratio is given. You have to determine the stress in Z direction. That's your question. Start solving, please. And do not give the answer until I ask you. Please note on the question. Once you note on the question, please let me know.
Okay, ma'am.
All right. Start solving. Please read the question clearly. It's a plane strain problem. So the constraints of the plane strain should be taken into consideration. And you are asked to determine the stress in Z direction. Now, 65 participants. I hope everybody took the question. If there is anyone who still did not note down the question, can ask. All right, Jayant, yes?
Ma'am, question note down చేస్తాను. అది స్క్రీన్ వస్తలే మ్యామ్ ఇది.
ఇప్పుడు వస్తుందా?
No, ma'am.
Check it properly. I have
Okay, ma'am.
shared the screen. Mute yourself, please. All right. Please do not take long. We have a new topic to cover today. క్రాంతి మేడం,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
మ్యామ్ నేను స్క్రీన్ షేర్ చేసినప్పుడు పార్టిసిపెంట్స్ ది హ్యాండ్ రేస్ చేశారు లేదో నాకు కనపట్లేదు. ఎవరైనా రేస్ చేస్తే నాకు చెప్పండి మేడం.
Yes, ma'am. I'll inform.
థ్యాంక్ యూ మ్యామ్.
Okay.
If you are done with the solution, you can raise your hand and ma'am will check it and let me know. I stopped sharing my screen. It's high time that you have noted down the question. All right, guys, you can see in your chat box, I have given you the poll. I have given you three answers for that. So whatever solution you got for the problem, you can give your answer there as a vote. Are you able to see in the chat? Did you find the poll?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, go ahead. You can give the answers. And whatever the answers you submit here, I'll get the answer for that. 18 responses till now. You can see on my screen who all have answered. Along with the names, I'll be getting it, and your answers also. Because you're able to see in the chat which answer is chosen maximum, do not think that answer only would be right. You have to solve the answer and then submit your answer. I'm giving you 2 more minutes, please. We have to start a new topic. So please do it fast. Who's that?
లేకపోతే బయటికి రా 72 to
Yes. Who's
ఒక్క నిమిషం అక్క.
all right? Only 38 responses. Forty-three responses. Good. Forty-four responses. Good enough. Right. Shall we see what is the answer? Or still, I think people are doing. So it's 9:48 now. I'll wait for 2 more minutes. At 9:50, we'll solve the question and move forward for the next topic. Only 40. I got only 50 responses, whereas in the class we have about 73 people. What happened to the other members? 23 more. Fifty-seven responses. Last minute. I'll close the poll at 9:50 sharp. Fifty-seven responses. All right. We'll stop the response. We'll stop taking the responses for now. Right. Maximum of the students have given 450 megapascal as the answer. One of you who gave the answer as 450 megapascal, unmute yourself, show yourself please and talk. How did you get the answer? Unmute and also your video. 51 of you have given the same answer and none of you is coming forward. Do I call you by name or what? Yes, Hadi.
I'm 4500 MPa now, ma'am.
Show yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, now speak. How did you get the answer?
I got the formula from textbook that sigma z equals to mu sigma x plus sigma y.
Yes, right.
So I just put it in the formula. I got this value.
You just kept it in the formula, that's all.
Yes, ma'am.
So if you keep that in the formula, what is the value of mu?
0.3
Into sigma x plus sigma y. What is sigma x?
30 into 10 to the power of 3 MPa.
Okay, what is sigma y?
Minus 15 into 10 to the power of 3.
So if we take 10 to the power 3 as common, 30 minus 15.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? 0.3 into 15, 4.5. 4.5 into 10 to the power 3 will make your answer 4500 MPa, whereas it is not 450 MPa.
Yes.
1 decimal. You all are
Yes,
missing
ma'am.
1 decimal. The answer is 4.5 into 10 to the power 3 MPa. You can close yourself. You can mute yourself.
Okay.
The answer is 4500 MPa. Only one person have given the answer. Who's that? Let me check. Who gave the answer of 4500? Come forward. Right. Only Hadi. Good. Rest all? Have you understood what is the mistake? One
Yes,
member,
madam.
please. Yes. The answer is 4.5 into 10 to the power 3, which means 4500 MPa. So that has to be your answer. Stress in x direction is not becoming 0 when it is a plane strain problem. Strain in x direction will become 0. Alright, so from the generalized Hooke's law equations, if we take this into consideration and solve it, you will end up with the equation mu into sigma x plus sigma y is equal to sigma z. From that, you will, if you substitute the given values, you will get the answer. Alright, clear so far? We'll go forward. In the previous class, we have seen what is stress equilibrium equations. From stress equilibrium equations, I found a small video. We'll see the video. It is clearly telling us how the stress equilibrium equations or the stress constraints are there in a elemental cube. Are you able to see the video? Guys, are you able to
Yes.
see the video?
Yes,
Ma'am,
ma'am.
Yes,
ma'am, are you
Yes,
getting
ma'am.
the volume of the video?
No, ma'am. Only it is the slide of explain the 3D stress tensor.
Yeah.
That's all.
I'll on the video, ma'am. Let me know whether the audio
Okay,
is
ma'am.
audible or not.
Okay.
Now?
No, ma'am.
Okay. I'll share it again. Right. I'll include the system audio. Now you should be able to listen.
Explain the three-dimensional.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Check the video. It is only an illustration to show how the stresses and strains stresses in a 3D elemental volume, that 3D cube what we have drawn in the previous class, in which phase how the stresses will act. It is explained in the video. Please check.
Explain the three-dimensional stress tensor. In order to understand what a three-dimensional stress tensor is, consider an arbitrary body subjected to different forces. Due to these forces, stresses get induced in the body in all the three dimensions. Let us consider an infinitesimal stress element which shows the state of stress at a point in the given stressed body. Assume that the stress element is in equilibrium. We see that this stress element consists of 6 faces in the 3 dimensions. The face perpendicular to the positive direction is called positive face, and that to the negative direction is called negative face. Now the stress element is subjected to 3 different normal stresses and 6 different shear stresses. Thus, to define stress at any point in a 3-dimensional space, we require 9 components of stresses, which can be represented in the form of a multi-dimensional array as shown. Such array is termed as a 3-dimensional stress tensor. Thus, a 3-dimensional stress tensor is a multi-dimensional array of 9 stress components. Now let's discuss about the nomenclature and sign convention for these stress components. Let's start with normal stress. It has a subscript that identifies the face on which the stress acts. For example, normal stress sigma x is acting on the x face of the element, and the normal stress sigma z is acting on the z face of the element. The sign convention for normal stress is very simple. Tensile stress is taken as positive, while compressive stress is taken as negative. Now let us discuss about the nomenclature and sign convention for shear stress. It has 2 subscripts, where subscript 1 identifies the face on which the stress acts, while subscript 2 identifies the direction of stress on that face of the element. For example, shear stress tau xy is acting on the x face of the element and in y direction, and the shear stress tau zx is acting on the z face of the element and in the x direction. Shear stress is positive when it acts in the positive phase and positive direction of an axis. It is also positive when it acts in the negative phase and negative direction of an axis. Thus, in this given stress element, all the shear stress components are positive, and a shear stress is negative when it acts in the positive phase and in the negative direction of an axis. It is also negative when it acts in the negative phase and positive direction of an axis. Related terms are
All right. Hope you understood the reason of giving the video here. How are the 3D stresses, 3D elemental volume, which we have defined the stress equilibrium equations in the previous class. How and at which phase and how they act. Just for an illustration, I have shown you the video. And for today's class, we will start with stiffness matrix for various elements. All right. Please stop giving answers in the chats. As of now, that's enough. We'll start with the new topic, that is stiffness matrix for various elements. I request you to note down the stiffness matrix and for different element and what it is, because this is only going to help us to go forward in the finite elements. All right, finite elements, as I said you already, is completely about matrix methods of solution. So stiffness matrix plays an important role. All right. Before going for stiffness matrix, by the way, for stiffness matrix, why we are starting is, I have given you in your first class itself. See, this is your unit 1. In your unit 1, we have stiffness matrix for a two-noded bar, two-noded truss, and a beam element. All right. Rather than starting with variational approach, Rayleigh-Ritz method and Galerkin's method, we are starting with stiffness matrix for a two-noded bar, truss, and beam elements. All right. We will start with the stiffness matrices now. Before I start, I want somebody to tell me what is stiffness, because in the previous class I already said
Madam,
excuse me, are you able to listen? Are you able to listen, guys?
yes, ma'am.
There was some connectivity issue. All right. Please do not write in the chat box, please. I want you to raise your hand. Madam will let you answer. Please raise your hand. Madam will let you answer. Arun, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am. None of you know what is a stiffness? What is stiffness? You're in final year, guys. All right, note it down. Let's not waste time. Note it down. We'll start with the stiffness matrix for a two-noded bar element. All right. Before starting that, we'll see what is stiffness. All right. Stiffness is defined as force required for unit displacement. Stiffness is defined as the force required for unit displacement. This is what we have to concentrate. We are trying to find out force required for the unit displacement in the structure. So when we get the value of force, whatever the applied force is given to us, we can find out what is the respective displacement caused due to the applied force. All right. The stiffness is defined as the force required for unit displacement. Now, that can be represented in this form. Whereas, what is F? F is the force vector, K is the stiffness matrix, and delta is the displacement vector. Alright, this is the format that you find in your stiffness matrix method. In your TOS 2, if you remember, we have two type of methods for solution. Unit 3 was force method and unit 4 was displacement method or stiffness matrix method. In force method, what we get is flexibility. Flexibility is the exact inverse for your stiffness. Alright, flexibility would be displacement caused due to unit force, whereas stiffness is the force required for unit displacement. So the whole of the FEM, we are going to concentrate on this part of the section. All right. We will have to find out what is the stiffness matrix for the given structure. All right. So to find out that, we need to, in the starting, for the basic elements, we need to derive a specific matrix equations for the for this K matrix. All right. So if the force is given, it will be easy for us to find out the displacement. If the displacement is given, it is easier for us to find out the force vector. For that, we need this part of the section. All right. Now, because it is a matrix, we can find Kii, Kij type of elements in that, elements of matrix. So first, what are those elements? Kij is the force developed in the coordinate I due to the unit displacement at coordinate j. See it very clearly. J is where you are applying your unit displacement and I is where you are looking for the force. All right. Suppose I have a bar and I have node 1 and node 2. All right. Now I am applying my unit displacement at node 2. All right. Then if K22 is what unit displacement applied at 2 and I want the force value also at 2. If at all it is K12, it means you are applying the unit displacement at node 2. But due to the application of unit displacement at node 2, what is the force produced at node 1 is our K12 value. All right. Similarly, the other case, if I am applying at 1. All right. So, what are the values I'll get? I'll get K11 and I'll get K12, which means, sorry, not K12, it is K21. Where you are applying will be the second term. Where you are trying to find out the value of the force will be the first term. Are we clear so far? Because if you don't understand this concept, while taking the solution, you will get confused with what is K12 and what is K21. All right. I hope we are clear. I need one yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Repeat once again.
All right. I'll repeat once again. Kij is the force developed in the coordinate I due to the unit displacement at coordinate j. All right. Now, what are these coordinates is the node member or the boundary positions what we take. All right. Now, let us think this is a bar with 2 nodes. All right. So, I have coordinate 1 here and coordinate 2 here. All right. So, because this is a two-noded element, whatever matrix I get a matrix of 2 by 2. All right. Now, when it is 2 by 2, what all terms will I have? K11, K12, K21 and K22. Pardon my writing here. I'm using the mouse. All right. Now, if at all I need these terms, I need to understand what are the elements here. Suppose I'll take K22. K22 is, see, Kij, both are different. Now, this term is like Kjj. The thing is, I'm applying at 2. I want the force at 2. I'm applying unit displacement at coordinate 2 and then trying to know what is the force produced at 2 itself due to the applied unit displacement. That is K22. If at all I'm applying at 2, that is I'm applying unit displacement at 2 and I want what is the force produced in coordinate 1, that will become K12. Application of unit displacement is at node 2, but the force required is at node 1. That will become my K12. I hope it's clear now. Whoever asked me. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. We'll go forward. Now, Kij, we are clear with what is the terms that will come into stiffness matrix. Now, let us see, before we go into the terms, we need to see what exactly is the force that we can get. All right. Now, let us consider a bar element of cross section A. cross-sectional area, Young's modulus E. Let's think it has a length L and extension or shortening, that is the displacement, as delta. All right. Looking into this, can you get what is the force that is produced in the member? This is from your strength of materials. This is nothing new for you. We are not trying to see what is Kij here. Force produced in the member if it has a cross-sectional area A, Young's modulus E, length L, and the extension delta. Using your Hooke's law also you can get. If I show you the formula, you will tell how we know this. Have you ever seen this? Did you see this? Extension is given by PL by AE, right? Now, here, see, we are giving unit displacement, all right, and trying to find out the force in the member. So, I'll make a little change in the equation and rewrite the equation. I need P in terms of delta. All right. So, I just rewrote the equation as P is equal to AE by L into delta. This is the similar form what we saw. Force vector, displacement vector, and in between we have a relation depending upon the material properties or the other coordinates of the bar. Alright. So, Kij terms will come in form of AE by L terms. Alright. So, for the same, if I give unit displacement, I am giving delta as 1. If I give delta as 1, then what will the answer become? The force that we are trying to find out is P is equal to AE by L. Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. We'll go ahead. Please note down the that formula, please. P is equal to AE by L. P is the force here. All right. We'll take a unit bar. We have come into the step where we have to derive stiffness matrix for a bar element and a two-noded bar element. I am considering that this is a two-noded bar element. That is, I have node 1, node 2, or coordinate 1 and coordinate 2. All right. And U1, U2 would be some displacements. Displacement at 1 and displacement at 2. And there is a rule for the stiffness matrix when you derive. All right. When we are giving unit displacement at a coordinate, all right, suppose I'm giving unit displacement at coordinate 1. The displacement in the other coordinates, how many ever coordinates we may have? Here we have 2. All right. I'll take the example of 2 and give. When I give unit displacement at coordinate 1, the displacement is restricted only to coordinate 1. There should not be any displacement in coordinate 2. That is the rule. All right. So, when we have to derive, when we give a unit displacement at coordinate 1, we have to make sure that there will not be any displacement in unit 2, I mean coordinate 2. In that way, we can get what is the force required to restrict the displacement happening at coordinate 2. That is the way we follow. All right. So, you can note this point. The displacement at the unit displacement at the given coordinate, the unit displacement, when a unit displacement is given to a coordinate, the displacement in the other coordinates should be 0. When a unit displacement is given to one coordinate, the displacement in the other coordinates should be 0. All right, we'll go forward now. Now we'll start with I'll start giving a unit displacement for coordinate 1. So when I give unit displacement at coordinate 1, what are the terms will I get? I get K11. Somebody answer, what will I get more? Are you people even listening, or you left your idle screen?
K1.
Yeah. K1. K12. Who said that? Who said that? Give your name, please.
Monica, ma'am.
Monica. It is K21. I said you the application of the unit displacement will come as the second term. I am applying at coordinate 1, which means I am getting I'll get 1 as the second term. Alright. So here the two terms that I get is K11 and K21. Alright. Let's see. I am giving unit let the length of the bar element be L. Okay. I am giving unit displacement at coordinate 1, and the position of coordinate 1 has become this point, and it is unit displacement from this point to this point now. All right. Now we have seen already, if a unit displacement is given at node 1, the forces developed in the direction 1 and 2 will be given by K11 is AE by L. Why AE by L? We already saw the force developed and the unit displacement is given P is equal to AE by L. Here our P is our K11, the force required at coordinate 1 due to the unit displacement at coordinate 1 itself is K11. Now what will K21 become? K21 is minus AE by L. Why? Why the term minus AE by L have come into picture is, now see, due to the unit displacement given at coordinate 1, what is happening? The displacement at coordinate 2 is also happening. But what did I tell you? The rule for this is, when a unit displacement is given at one particular node, there should not be any displacement in the any other coordinates. So here when I am giving at 1 the unit displacement, the unit displacement at 2 should be restricted. This should not be happening. So for that reason, I should equally give an opposite AE by L, minus AE by L, to restrict this displacement from happening. Alright. So 2K21 will become minus AE by L. Understood? Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Very good. Now can you write for the other terms? I am giving similarly the unit displacement at coordinate 2. See, this is the unit displacement I am giving at coordinate 2. Alright. So when I give unit displacement at coordinate 2, what will I get? I get K22 term. That is unit displacement at coordinate 2, and the force required is also at coordinate 2. So both in the same direction, and given unit displacement will be positive. What will be for the next term?
Minus AE by L.
Very good. See, if I am giving at unit 2, the member tends to move in this direction, but I need to restrict that and stop it. So I need to give equal and opposite reaction for that to come into picture. All right. So K12 will become minus AE by L. So 2 noded bar element, we got all the 4 terms of the stiffness matrix. If we combine them and give, this is the stiffness matrix for a 2 noded bar element. This is the stiffness matrix for a 2 noded bar element. I just took AE by L common. So K matrix is equal to A by L into 1 minus 1 minus 1 1. Clear? Any doubts in the stiffness matrix of a bar element?
Excuse me, ma'am. It's me, Abdul Rahim. Ma'am, can
Yes.
you repeat it, ma'am, from the previous?
Yes. Where? From where?
The previous, the K11 is equals to A by L and K21 is equals to minus E by L.
All right. I'm on the slide already. Can you see?
Yeah.
Yes, Rahim.
Yeah.
See, I said K11 or K21 terms indicate, the second term indicate where I am giving the unit displacement, and the first term or the first coordinate indicates where the force is required. All right. If you remember, stiffness K is the force required for the unit displacement. So here K is our P, force. All right. So we saw what is P. P is equal to A by L. Okay. Now I am giving unit displacement at 1 and I want what is the force at 1. So I can directly give that as K11 as A by L. All right. Now when I come for K21, when I give unit displacement at coordinate 1, the coordinate 2 also tends to move in the value of unity. Unit displacement is happening there. But for stiffness, the rule is where the application of unit displacement is there, except in that node, all the other nodes are restricted to displace. So I need to restrict the coordinate 2 from the displacement that is happening due to the displacement given here. For that, what should I give? I need to give the exact same reaction for the displacement. So for A by L, to make this as 0, I
keeping it in negative opposite direction, ma'am.
yes.
So that's the reason we are keeping U2 at opposite direction to U1.
Yeah, that is why.
Okay.
Because
so
U1,
is minus
U1,
A by L.
yes, U1 we are giving, that is what is the rule I have given before starting itself. Which coordinate you are giving, only there should be displacement. In the other coordinate, there should not be any displacement. So I need to give equal and opposite reaction from the other coordinate. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Shall we move forward now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the stiffness matrix for a two-noded bar element. If you are clear with this, we'll go for the stiffness matrix of the next element. All right. One topic is done here. So next will be, see, bar element when I showed, one minute. Bar element when I showed, because we are asked to find out the stiffness matrix for a two-noded bar element, I have taken this into consideration. All right. Now, when you know the value for a two-noded bar element, if any number of nodes be attached to this, what is the last unit from your TOS 2? Anyone remember? Last unit from your TOS 2? No one? Last unit of your TOS 2?
Purlins, ma'am.
Sorry?
Purlins.
Purlins. Nana TOS 2 అడిగాను. Last unit from your TOS 2. Great. Have you heard this direct element method? That is your unit 5 in your TOS 2. Direct element method. What are you people going to do if the exams are going to be conducted? Great. See, there is a topic called direct element method in your theory of structures 2. That is your last unit. which is a part of FEM. All right. In that, if we have a continuous beam, all right. Now there may be a simply supported, a hinge or any continuous beam, and various loads are applied. Here we have unit load, point load, we have UDL, various loads are applied to it. What we generally do is, in direct element method, we divide that member into smaller elements. This will be taken as 1, this will be taken as 2 from here to here, and this will be taken as 3, and individually these are derived separately and then combined together. That is called your direct element method. All right, in your last unit of theory of structures, that is the same thing, from that is the topic from your finite elements only. All right, now this is just that one part what we have seen. All right, suppose bars are given in this way. Now there are many coordinates here. See, you can find coordinate 1, coordinate, I'll take another ink. Yeah, see, look here, I have coordinate 1, coordinate 2, coordinate 3, coordinate 4. Similarly, even here, I have coordinate 1, coordinate 2, coordinate 3, coordinate 4. All right. So there are about 4 coordinates now, or 4 nodes. How are you going to solve this? Because we know only stiffness matrix for a 2-noded bar element. But this bar have 4 coordinates. So there what we'll be doing is, we will take individual bars. You can call it as a free body diagram, what we generally do. All right. Now individually I'll take the nodes separately. Now this is bar with 2 nodes, for which stiffness matrix we already know. All right. A value will be given, L value will be given, E value will be given. AE by L into 1 minus 1 minus 1, 1 is your stiffness matrix. What we should do is, stiffness matrix for 1 element, 2 element, 3 element. 3 different stiffness matrix you'll find out. Combine them both. All right. That is what is called global stiffness matrix. There are 2 terms. All right. One is local stiffness matrix and the other one is global stiffness matrix. What is local now? When you divide this, for this element, this part will become the local stiffness, and for this will become the local, and for this will become local. When you have to combine them, the whole together doesn't indicate you are just adding it. All right. The thing is, for this we have common nodes. When we have common nodes in the matrix, you get common terms. All right. Those terms will be added together. All right. That whole combined stiffness matrix is called a global stiffness matrix. This should already be over in TOS 2, but because classes didn't happen, I'm explaining that to you again. All right. These are also bar elements as of the actual 2-noded bar element what we saw till now. All right. Now, horizontal or vertical member, when it is a bar, you just have to remember that when we are taking a bar element, application of force is taken axially only in x direction. All right. So that is our stiffness matrix for a bar element. We'll go for the next topic now. It is stiffness matrix for a truss element. Stiffness matrix for a truss element. All right. Force method, displacement method, direct element method, we didn't see. But what are trusses? We have seen in the class. Can anybody tell me how many types of trusses are there? What I have told in happy. Different types of trusses. We have drawn so many trusses on the board, guys. Section A, somebody answer. or section B also, if you know what are the various types of trusses that is discussed in the class, at least that you can tell. Are you guys sleeping? Guys, are you present in the class?
Present, ma'am.
Then answer the question. What are the types of
Yes, sir.
trusses we have seen?
Forgot, ma'am.
Forgot.
Madam, they are typing the answer.
Guys, please do not type the answers in the chat box. When I'm sharing you the screen, I cannot come back to the chat box. Please unmute yourself or raise your hand. Madam will unmute you. You can then speak. All right? Yes. Somebody is answering. Yes? All right. Forgot was the...
Strat and
Track
warrant.
trust,
Yes.
warrant
Track.
gator trust,
Very good.
I trust.
curved,
Very good.
curved flange trust,
Curved flange. Okay. All right. Any more? All right. I am giving you the answer myself. See, these are the general forms of trusses we see. All right. We know Pratt, we know Howey truss, we know Warren truss that we have discussed in the class. The new one is Baltimore and the other one is K. All right. If you clearly see all these trusses, what is the common thing you find?
Color and triangle shapes.
Triangular shapes. All right. Let us talk in the terms of elements. We'll talk as individual elements. And what are we observing? See, in every truss, we have a horizontal element, a vertical element, or an inclined element. All right. You can see in many types of trusses are kept in front of you. In all the elements, you have, in all the truss members, you can commonly find three types of elements in that. One is horizontal, one is inclined, and the other one is vertical. All right. If at all it is horizontal, if at all it is vertical, we can get the stiffness matrix of that particular element. Suppose I want from this node to this node. I have this member. If I need for this member, how will I find out the stiffness matrix? How will I find out the stiffness matrix? We saw stiffness matrix for a bar element. What was the bar element? Two-noded bar element, which is axially loaded. Right? In the truss, if we clearly see, we will not find any movements happening. All right. When it is a truss member, the forces that are there are along the members. All right. Forces are, when the force is applied, the forces will be distributed along the members, which clearly indicates that if at all a horizontal force is applied, that will be distributed in horizontal and to the inclined member. All right. If a vertical force is applied, it will be distributed vertically, it will be distributed horizontally, or it will be distributed inclined. All right. Horizontal force if I give, or vertical force if I give. So, when it is about trying for deriving an stiffness matrix for a truss element, the knowledge what we have to derive a stiffness matrix for a bar element will be enough. Until when? Until the members, until the member is horizontal or vertical. Both are considered as bar elements directly. All right. You can apply your direction cosines and get the answer. All right. The only question arises when it is an inclined member. How are we going to get the stiffness matrix? All right. So we will see how are we going to get. Suppose this is the truss element I have. All right. Now in this truss element, for the inclined element I want to see. All right. So for the inclined element, this force distribution can be taken in x direction and in y direction. All right. For that, this is the format what we follow. From our x direction, we keep on going to take the values of theta. All right. Depending upon that, we will derive the stiffness matrix for the member. All right. So one member I'll take. Suppose I will take this element from the member. All right. Now this element I have two nodes. Node 1, node 2. All right. So this is my node 1 and this is my node 2. So when the forces are applied, the possibility will become like the unit displacement can go in direction 1 and direction 2, that is in x and y. And in node 2 also there is a possibility of going in direction 3 and direction 4, that is x and y at node 2. All right, we need to derive the stiffness matrix for this inclined member. All right, you take down the figure, please. Take down the truss figure and the element figure. All right, E is the Young's modulus, A is the area of cross section, and L is the length. And theta is the inclination of the member with the horizontal. Please mention that theta is the inclination of the element with the horizontal. We are going to consider the theta always from the horizontal. So method of joints, method of sections, I think you remember from your strength of materials also. And we have seen such problems in our TOS 2 also. How to find out the forces in the member. We are going to take the same concept to derive the stiffness matrix in the truss element. All right. Are we done with the figure? Are we done with the figure?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Please take the figure of the element only, if at all it is taking very long. See, from the next slide, whenever I put a picture of the element, depending upon individual coordinate, make sure you take down the picture first. All right, I'll give you time to note down the values of the stiffness matrix, but note down the picture. If at all, if you need some of the pictures what I'm showing you here, you can get the textbook PDF online. I have given you the names of the textbooks already in the very first class. All right, try to take the textbook of Chandrapatla or Bhavikati. You can find all these figures, all the but in both of the textbooks, the notations what they have taken is little bit different. If you understand the concept, notations is not a big deal. Are we done? You have to be. We don't have time to waste. All right, we'll go for the first one.
Yes, ma'am.
See, here, remember when I speak in the direction of the coordinate only, because I gave 4 directions here. Direction 1, direction 2, direction 3, direction 4. All right. So when I speak in the terms of directions. Okay. See, I'm giving unit displacement in the coordinate direction 1. So what is the coordinate direction 1? It is horizontal from your figure. All right. So this would be happening. I am giving unit displacement in the direction 1, which is the horizontal direction. So if at all unit displacement is happening in this direction, So with an inclination theta, and I want force in the member. What will be that? Force in the member will become 1 into cos theta. It is given in the figure. Force in the member becomes 1 into cos theta, right? So the displacement along the element is 1 into cos theta. In the previous case, when you have seen in the bar element, the displacement was directly 1 only. Unit displacement indicated 1. Here, we are giving unit displacement in x direction because it's one of the element from the truss. When I'm giving the axial force, we are giving unit displacement 1. But that unit displacement 1, we need how is it the force is acting in the member element. All right. So what will that become? The displacement. Now this means this is the value of delta. All right. The displacement along the element is 1 into cos theta. So what will the force become? P is equal to A by L into delta, right? We have seen in the first slide itself, I mean the previous slides, P is equal to A by L into delta. Now here what is the delta? 1 into cos theta. So the forces developed at the ends are P is equal to A by L. That is this P and this P is A by L cos theta. Now we have to find out, we know what is the value of delta, we know what is the value of P for the inclined member. This terms, what we get in terms of theta values, that is the inclination with the horizontal or the vertical, these are called transformed elements or transformed values. So the matrix we get is also transformation matrix. All right. Now, I am giving it unit displacement at 1 and I am expecting k value also at along 1. So directly that will be P cos theta, right? So what is P value? A by L cos theta. So A by L cos theta into cos theta is A by L cos square theta. Got the point? Guys, if I don't
Yes,
get
ma'am.
response from your side, I cannot go forward. Please understand that. I cannot make assumptions that you understood. That's not my job. All right. You have to tell me whether you understood or you need it once again. All right. Now K11 is in the direction of 1 and I want along 1 itself. So P cos theta. So similarly K21 I am applying at 1. I want in the direction of 2. What was the direction of 2? Vertical. All right. See, this is not new for us. When we are taking from x direction to inclined, it is cos theta. When we are taking from x direction to y, I mean the y direction, and the theta is for your horizontal, it is p sin theta. This one is not new for us. So K21 will become p sin theta. We know what is the value of p. Just substitute the value of p in your K11 or K21 values. What are the other two values that we are going to get here? Other two terms.
Negative.
No, I'm not asking about negative or positive. In the terms of K, what do we get? I got K11, I got K21. What are the other terms we get? Elements of stiffness matrix, what are the other two terms we get?
1, 2 and 2.
1, 2.
Okay. Guys, we
K2
have,
and K12.
if at all, I have 4 directions here if you remember in the figure. When we have 4 directions, I'm going to get 4 terms.
K31.
Yes, K31 and K41. 3 is the direction here and 4 is the direction here. That's why I asked you to draw the figure very much properly. At each coordinate you have two directions individually. All right. So we are going to get 4 stiffness matrix elements per each coordinate. All right, per coordinate, not each. All right. So I am applying at 1. So all the second terms are 1. Okay. So when I'm applying at 1, I want at 1 directly P cos theta. I'm applying at 1, I want the force at 2. It is P sin theta. I'm applying at 1, I want at 3. I'm applying at 1, I want at 3. I said there should not be any displacement happening in the other coordinates. So I need to restrict that. If I have to restrict that, I need to give equal and opposite force and equal and opposite force in the other direction to restrict the displacement happening at this coordinate. All right. So minus P cos theta minus P sin theta. All right. Are we clear? So we got first 4 terms when we are applying unit displacement at coordinate 1. So what is the next one? Unit displacement in the coordinate direction 2. Unit displacement in the coordinate direction 2. See, I am giving unit displacement in coordinate direction 2 now. So this is the direction of 2. You have to remember the first figure very much clearly what is the directions. Okay. But I said you theta is the inclination with the horizontal only. So what is the displacement becoming here? 1 into sin theta. And what is the forces developed? P is equal to A by L into sin theta. Right? Did you get it how we got this?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So what are the terms we are going to get? K12, K22, K32 and K42 applied at 2. So all terms of 2 you are going to get here. K12, K22, K32 and K42. Alright. So K12, P cos theta, that is in this direction. K22, P sin theta in this direction. K32, P cos theta in this direction. So it will be minus. From the other coordinate, we are restricting. So equal and opposite. And P42, that is minus P sin theta. That is in vertical direction in the other coordinate. Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. All right. Shall we go for the next one? All right. We'll go for the next one. That is unit displacement in the coordinate direction 3. All right. Unit displacement in the coordinate direction 3. See, 3 is now from this point we are done with this coordinate. We are going for the other coordinate now. All right. So the sign changes. Where you are applying will always be positive. We have to remember. All right. Where you are applying will be positive. So the restricting, that is in the other coordinate, if at all that is favorable to what displacement you are giving in this direction, that will be positive. If at all it is the displacement is happening, if at all it is restricting, that's fine, it will be positive. If at all the displacement is happening, then that will be minus, equal and opposite force from the other direction. All right. So here again in the direction of 3, that is in cos direction, that is the horizontal. So theta was this was our theta. All right. So displacement along the element is 1 into cos theta. This is similar to what we have taken in the note 1. All right. So 1 into cos theta will be delta. T is equal to A by L into cos theta. So what are the terms we are going to get here? K13, K23, K33 and K43. That is all the four applied at third direction 3. All right. So K13 minus P cos theta. Why is it that we got minus cos theta here is? Excuse me?
Ma'am, the student 307, 307, he raised his hand, ma'am.
Okay, Shravanti, Cheppama, 307.
Ma'am, can you show once previous slide?
Yes. This is the slide
Ma'am,
you
here
want?
we, yes, ma'am. Here we are giving load for 2 no, ma'am.
In second direction.
Yeah. Then we are getting 3, 4 as negative. Why we are not getting as 1, 2 negative? Like we should get it.
No. Look at this. We are giving for this coordinate. In this coordinate, the direction is in this direction and in this direction. Right? Now, I am giving unit displacement along this direction. Now, when I take the inclination, when I turn, what is happening? When I turn one direction into the element, that is favorable to the displacement what I want. From the coordinate 1, when I impose my x direction 1 into this, what is happening? What is happening is, it is going in the same direction which I want it. See, at coordinate 1, I am giving unit displacement. Right? See, in the direction of 2 I am giving, but still at coordinate 1 only I am giving. Coordinate A you can call. In coordinate A only I am giving, but in the direction 2. Now, if I impose this one into the member, what will happen? The displacement will be in this direction. Is it not? Shravanti, you can unmute yourself and speak.
Yes, ma'am. Clear,
Right?
ma'am. Thank you.
Now in x direction also, if I am taking and I impose it back, it is also in the direction of the force. Whereas if at all in this coordinate I see the directions are like this, and I impose it depending upon the force there, it is going outward, which I don't want. I want the displacement in the opposite direction to restrict the displacement here. That is why that is minus. All right? Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. We'll go for the next one. Yeah, we are done here. We are going for the same displacement happening in the in the coordinate direction 3. All right. So here we get the terms K13, K23, K33 and K43. All right. Now K13 is, that is what I explained over there. See, 3 is in this direction. So if I impose, force in the member is in this direction. All right. But K13, if I give and I impose it to the member, what is happening? The displacement is happening along the direction that I am giving, which I don't want. I need this displacement of this coordinate to be restricted. So I need to give equal and opposite in the opposite direction. So K13 will become minus P cos theta. Similarly, K23 will become minus P sin theta. Whereas I have two favorable conditions in 3 and 4 directions, which means P33 will become positive P cos theta and K43 will become positive P sin theta. So clear? Are we clear? Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Any doubts until this point? Any doubts until this point? If you allow me to take assumptions, no, I will not explain the last one. I'll assume that you understand and you have to do it directly.
Explain this again.
Already did, ma'am.
Ma'am, give 30
Very
seconds for the question.
Sorry, what is 20 seconds?
Ma'am, explain
Take
this
some
again.
time, ma'am.
Okay. All right, somebody is asking me to explain this once again. Who all have done well and good, who did not understand, will go for the first figure. Okay, look at this. See here in the element, I have given you the directions of forces. All right, 4 different directions for 2 nodes. Because this is an inclined member, there is a possibility that the displacement, the force, would be distributed along x and y depending upon its application. So we need to transform whatever the force that you are getting in this direction into our element. All right. So to find out what is the forces depending upon that, depending upon the unit displacement that is given at individual node, we need to get the unit displacements applied along the directions here. All right, this is similar to our when you find out the forces for member forces using a method of joints or method of sections. All right, p cos theta when it is from x direction, p sin theta when it is in y direction. All right, now if at all I am applying at in one direction, I mean applying in direction 1. All right, what is happening? This is outwards from the member. When I impose this, what happens? It has to come, I'm expecting the displacement happening in the member in this direction. All right, so that is what is shown. In the 4th member, see, here I'm applying the force at coordinate 3. When I'm applying at coordinate 3, this is the unit displacement and I impose it to the direction of the member. The force acting will be in outward direction. That is my expected direction. So that will be positive. You can see K33 will be positive. When it is 4, it is also outward. When I superimpose with respect to the inclination, it is also going in the direction, desired direction of the application of unit force, unit displacement. That is why P43 will also be positive. All right. Whereas when I come for node 2, I mean node 1 in the other direction, here my direction was like this in the first figure. Right. Now when I superimpose, I am getting the displacement in the direction of the given of the node that is applied. But I need to restrict for this from happening. When the displacement of but one node is given, the displacement in the other node should be 0. So I need to restrict this from happening. So the other 2 whatever we have will be negative. Got the point? Whoever asked me the doubt. Are you clear now?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now finally, unit displacement in the coordinate direction 4. Can you do it? Whoever have said that they have done very well and good, you are understanding my class very well. You can at least give a try. Unit displacement in coordinate direction 4. This is the representation. I am giving P in this direction and I need to restrict from this direction, so I get opposite direction at the other node. Displacement along element, because direction 4 is y direction, I get 1 into sine theta. And hence the force developed at the ends are P is equal to A by L sine theta. Now you need to write the 4 elements of the matrix. That is K14, K24, K34 and K44. Can you do it? Guys, can you do it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 1 yes. It's simple. If you understood how we did the other 3, it is very easy to get the answer for the 4th one. All right. The only thing is you have to be clear with the concept. The directions where we get negative, where we get positive is very, very important. You can make a note of it if you want. In the direction of the unit displacement, if the condition is favorable for which direction you want, then it is positive. If at all the displacement is happening in the other coordinate, there where you have to restrict, there it will be negative. All right. So the final terms K14 will be minus P cos theta, K24 minus P sin theta, K34 P cos theta, K44 P sin theta. So these are the last four terms. So we have an element of two nodes which have two individual directions at each node. So we had completely four directions. So whatever the K matrix you get, or we already got, that will be of order 4 by 4 matrix for a truss element, single element. All right. So are we clear till here? Did you note down the unit displacement in the coordinate direction 4?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now see, therefore we'll combine the whole elements that we got, and this is the stiffness matrix for a truss element. 4 by 4 matrix, we get AE by L taken common, and the order is 4 by 4. We just, what all terms we got till now are just kept in a form of a matrix. All right. So the thing what we need to note down here is, if you remember what is a stiffness matrix? Stiffness matrix is all the diagonal elements will always be positive. What are the diagonal elements we have? K11, K22, K33 and K44 or so on. That is where the displacement is applied and where we are expecting the to find out the force. At that point, if you are trying to find out the force, that position, it would be positive always. You have to remember. You can make a note of this. Diagonal elements of a stiffness matrix are always positive. And also stiffness matrix is always a square matrix. There is no possibility that a stiffness matrix can be a different order, 3 by 1, 2 by 1, 4 by 1. Such things will not be there. Stiffness matrix is always a square matrix. And stiffness matrix, diagonal elements will always be positive. And any other observation you have made out of stiffness matrix? We have seen two matrices till now. We saw for a bar element, we saw for a truss element. Any other observation you made? None of you? All right, you can make the final note. The stiffness matrix is a symmetric matrix. If you see from the diagonal, you can see that there are same terms. I hope you know what is symmetry. All right. So stiffness matrix is a symmetrical matrix. 3 points we have seen. This will, if at all, your internal will be in bits or in multiple choices, this will be asked. All right. Even in short answers, previous year FEM paper, short answers, the properties of stiffness matrix were asked to explain. All right. So it is a square matrix. All the diagonal elements will be positive. It is a symmetric matrix. All right. That you can make a note of. All right. Now we have a huge matrix that is shown in the picture here. If at all you have to remember it easily, there is a reduced form of it. All right. Here it is. EAE by L into L square LM minus L square minus LM. This is an other form to write down the stiffness matrix for a truss element. All right. Whereas L and M are the direction cosines. All right. L is cos theta and M is cos theta 90 degrees minus theta. That is your sin theta. All right. In this way also you can remember what is the stiffness matrix for a truss element. All right. Are we clear so far? Are we clear?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. For today, I'll stop it here. Okay. In the next coming classes, in the next coming class, that is on Friday, we'll see stiffness matrix for a beam element. All right. This stiffness matrix for a beam element has to be, I mean, you have already completed that, but still we are going to see it again in your TOS 2 because classes have not happened. We will again review at each node how are we going to get the K values as we have seen till now. All right. Yes, somebody raised your hand.
Yes, ma'am. I want to. Can you, ma'am, please show the last one slide, please?
Okay, last slide. I need to share it again. Okay. Right. Are you able to see now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Completed.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Done? Right.
Done.
Right. I'll take the attendance. When the screen is still here, I'm showing you I'm taking the attendance. Okay. And who all came late in the morning when I already took the attendance, you will get only 1 hour session attendance. I'm telling you. Be on time. Okay. I'll see you in the next class. I hope you don't have any doubts in this class. Even if you have, please make a note of it and be ready on Friday. First we'll have the question and answer session and then we'll go to the next class. All right. Thank you very much. We have 1 more minute. Yes. I'll stop the recording. All right. I'll stop the recording here. Sometimes the recording is